Today's webinar is brought to you by Clavis Insight. We're the global hub of e-commerce intelligence, and we're very excited to be joined by Jessica Crocco, who is the Associate E-commerce Content Manager at Unilever. Unilever has been working with Clavis Insight since 2012, and the company uses our e-commerce intelligence solution in more than 20 countries to support its online channel programs. Today, Jessica is going to cover the fast-growing mobile channel and the strategies and tactics Unilever employs to ensure its brands stand out on the small screen. In particular, about mobile-ready hero images and the set of standards and practices the company has developed around product images for mobile. Jessica works across all U.S. brands for Unilever to ensure 100% development and submission of search-optimized and shopper-led product content, and then works to syndicate the content across all online retail partners. In addition, she has led the implementation of various capabilities for content development and storage. With a master's from New York University in integrated marketing, she has a passion for all things digital, social media, and consumer research. Jessica, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. It's a little weird that, presenting to my laptop and can't see you all, but I hope, you guys find this engaging and informative, and I look forward to the questions and answers at the end of this webinar. So today I'm going to explore 3 things that show what we need for a fresh approach to meet online shoppers' needs. The first, mobile now is the first touch point. Shoppers are in many ways ahead of the game and have fully adopted this technology. It's in everybody's pocket. And of course, we all know mobile sales are continuously on the rise. But it seems that digital content, for the most part, hasn't been optimized for mobile, well, until now. So we've joined with Cambridge University's Inclusive Design Center to develop a new approach for creating images and content for the mobile channel. And then lastly, we need a shopper-first category solution. So we've joined with Cambridge, and now what can we offer to everyone else? How can we benefit all of you? So we'll be sharing this open source solution. Quickly, to bring you through some context slides, here's the front cover of The Economist in March 2015, predicting that 80% of adults globally will have a smartphone in their pocket by 2020. Well, I think already we may be ahead of that, and by 2020 we'll be far beyond. So it means that we've come to the planet of smartphones, and more we're using these devices to connect to the internet versus our PCs. We recently came across this tweet, and as it says, 430 million smartphones were shipped in Q4 alone of this past year. So that brings to a total of 1.5 billion in 2016. Smartphones continue to be that big technological advance, although, there's new technologies like the Alexa that's been created and has a lot of noise and buzz behind it. Smartphones will, and I think, always be ahead of the game. So the prediction for 2020 is that we'll be at 6 billion smartphones in our pockets. To further prove this prediction, here's a quick, graph. I won't go line by line, but essentially it just shows you once again that smartphones is the #1 device. 91% of adults now own a smartphone, and it's at that ripe age that we need to make key purchases. I'm sure we're all familiar with the various social platforms, but to speak to Facebook specifically, mobile is the most important device. I think we can all relate to that. And to consider, it's no surprise that we see more and more brands and retailers on social platforms advertising and trying to find ways to shop via these various media tools. So the end result is that consumers are shopping on that mobile device as we connect those two thoughts together. There's a big chunk to consider, and it's that 15% of users only connect via mobile devices. So let's throw PCs to the side. When you think of developing world markets, the mobile device is all they have because they don't have that internet connection. So when thinking holistically and inclusively, that's just something to consider. So now let's look at how much time is spent on different screens. So without exception, looking at this chart, a lot of numbers, but essentially, mobile and tablet beat TV and laptops on screen time. But I think, again, that comes to no surprise. But, you know, the U.S. out there, and I just see that growing more and more as the years go on. But some of you may object and tell me, you know, mobile isn't that important just yet, you know, because PC purchases still represent the majority of online shopping transactions. Well, I don't think that's necessarily true anymore, essentially because mobile is more than just a channel. It's allowed customers to search for products and services in real time and conduct research while they're in store making those purchasing decisions. I think, you know, the U.S. is at that tipping point for this year. We don't have the data. This is from Q1 of last year. We don't have the data of how the year ended or how this year has started, but it's clearly understood that it is a growing trend. So we need to deliver a great experience. The most important part is that it's delivered and developed across all screen sizes, but we must start with mobile first and work our way to desktop. Here's an example that I think we can all relate to. So I think many of us remember perusing DVD racks back, you know, back when Blockbuster was up and alive. So these DVD racks have been replaced with swiping up and down, looking at these image thumbnails. So you're now on Amazon, you're now on iTunes, Netflix, and you're almost going at hyperspeed, you know, swiping through all the various titles. And as you can see, they've also been replaced with simpler, cleaner, and decluttered hero images. The cover artwork, it helps us identify those key brand icons to engage and then choose that end movie that we want to know and love. So we realized we could create a better experience than the in-store experience of, you know, for example, Ben & Jerry's and Magnum. As mentioned before, shoppers are increasingly researching online before they go into store. So there's a lot of things that you can do on digital that you can't necessarily achieve. You can't have consumers, you know, rip off the lids and, you know, actually look at the ice cream themselves in store, but that's something you can show online. So looking at screen sizes, everything from the iPhone 4S to the Galaxy Note 7, it looks quite a difference when you have it in hand, but there isn't too much. The reality is that 80% of mobile traffic is on this device, so it creates a big design problem for us. We have a very small canvas to portray the most important information. And as mentioned before, you know, I think we all have the habit to be scrolling quickly and, you know, fast as we go up and down. So take social media as an example. So when you have a small canvas and you're quickly scrolling through, we need a solution. And to kind of back that up even more, there's two simple reasons. Well, one, as I've been mentioning a few times now, mobile is that first screen. And two, online shopping has just become mainstreamed in that, you know, as we get older, our eyesight may deteriorate, you know, and unfortunately it gets harder to see these multi-screens. So mobile, creating an e-com primary image is important for both of those reasons. So online eye tracking. This is something we were able to show with Cambridge and essentially just kind of back up our idea as to why hero images are so important. So first, shoppers dislike and avoid reading. This is primarily because our brain can process visual images 4,000 times faster than reading text. So our eyes just automatically go to the visual portion of the screen as we're, you know, fast tracking and sliding up and down. And two, we ignore everything else in that. You know, so if we're only looking at the images, we're not so much looking at the text next to it. We have to make sure that the important stuff is either on the image or right next to it. So let's ask ourselves, what is the 4 things that online shoppers need to know to successfully choose the right product? This was a question that Cambridge asked us when we began our collaboration. So I think ultimately first, the answer is going to be price. You know, as a customer, price is number one. But what are those other 4 things? The first being brand. For example, Magnum is, the world's most valuable ice cream brand. It's that logo. As soon as you see that logo, you know what that brand is. And that goes along with many of the other, I feel, Unilever brands like Dove. The second is format. So as part of the consumer decision tree, like shopping for deodorants, shoppers are loyal to their format. So whether it's a stick versus roll-on, you have this loyalty as to how and what products you use. So if a consumer can't recognize the exact type of product that they're purchasing and they can't figure it out easily, they become frustrated. So this is format as well as brands are important. And the second is variant. So shoppers shop by color and shape. I can actually attest to this, that I may not necessarily remember that it's Revive that I love of the Dove body wash, but I know it's that pink color. It's that pomegranate pink color. So they recognize the color and the shape. So that is what kind of really distinguishes the variant of a product. And then the last is size. So it's difficult when we use the same bottle shape across many of the sizes of our products. So when consumers need to figure out which one to choose, they need to then click to the product page to distinguish. And actually, the number one most common mistake of shopping online is selecting the wrong size. So we've developed a video because we are constrained with time for this webinar. I do suggest to go to Google or YouTube and type in mobile-ready images. And we've developed a video with Cambridge that demonstrates that shopper experience of that high-speed vertical scrolling, almost like a slot machine. And then as soon as the consumer finds that image, finds that product that they want, it's almost like hitting the jackpot. They stop immediately because they can recognize that that is the purchase they want to make. So I do suggest to go onto Google or YouTube, search that, and take a look. Very interesting and fun to watch. So let's do a test. I can't actually be asking you guys, so hopefully you guys are playing along. So this is for the most part, formatted so that it is like your phone in your hand. So looking at this image, this usual front of pack image that you'll find on a mobile retail site, can you tell what the brand is? Maybe. I think, pretty obvious with the Dove logo that we can figure out that it is Dove. The second question to ask, is it shampoo or conditioner? So this is a little harder for this product in particular because we use the same product shapes for both. So with that small text, can't really exactly identify, is it the shampoo or is it the conditioner? Now, what's the variant? Is it the intensive repair or is it going to do wonders for my hair dye, the color care? Still, unless I was certain and remember that the pink aligned to either one, I actually really still can't tell. And then what is the size? Again, if that shape and product is similar across various sizes, again, very difficult to tell. So just imagine trying to identify all these 4 points as you're fast scrolling. Do you think the consumer is going to be able to recognize quickly that that is the product they want? So now let's try with our hero images that we've created with Cambridge. Can you tell what the brand is? Dove. Is it the shampoo or conditioner? Well, there's a call out right there on the right-hand side. That's the shampoo. Is it the intensive repair or color care? Again, very easy to distinguish. It's the color care. And then what is the size? 400 milliliters. So again, it's a quick demonstration to show you what medium zoom and our side stripes can do for the shopper. So what are our mobile-ready hero images? So we've created these specifically for online retail to act as the primary image in search. And as those thumbnail results. So as you're scrolling through, that is your hero image. We've designed it so that it works well across all screen sizes that are typical for online retail. And of course, as we just walked through, it allows the shopper to better recognize the brand, the format, the variant, and the size while scrolling very quickly up and down. As well, it zooms and or crops, so it delivers a better legibility, and you can recognize the brand of the variant better. And then, if necessary, the type of product may be added to the strips along the right-hand side. So that's where we call out the functional, the shampoo, the conditioner, the hairspray, or such. So we know that shoppers struggle to find their variant in a fast vertical scroll, so we've made it simple and easy for them. Again, just an example across all of our body washes to show that medium zoom. You can tell the brand and the variant, and then of course the color that matches along the side with that functional name called out. Another question that we get frequently is, what's the need for the off-pack text, the stripe on the side? Well, this is because not all pack sizes are square. So therefore, there's a struggle to see what exactly they are. So really, those side, stripes are for those non-square type packs, and we'll give you some better examples. One, we illustrated this specifically for the eyeliner. So we're on mobile, we're shopping for eyeliner. Can we have any idea what that brand is? Maybe it's Maybelline, no idea. So we redesigned it, and tackled this with our cosmetic brand in India, which is actually a mobile-only market, and solved it because, eyeliner shouldn't cause eye strain. You should be able to figure out easily, what is the product and what are you looking for. So that was a quick summary of the mobile, of our mobile-ready hero images. But essentially, how we came about it comes in 3 pillars. The first is working with the University of Cambridge. It really helped us with a rigor of developing inclusive designs that would succeed with more than 75%, of the adult population. The second, with proven shopper insight. We partnered with Skin and Tobii Eye Tracking to test our hero images versus pack shots across all screen sizes, to prove that they would convert more strongly than conventional pack shots on both mobile, tablet, and desktop. And we've seen an uplift across all these tests, which I will share with you. And then lastly, visual consistency. So a lot of pushback initially from retailers is that they just saw a visual Armageddon, across their digital pages, that some had these hero images, some had, front of pack, the normal pack images, and then with even in the hero images themselves, the design could vary. So that's where we came up with this visual consistency, and that's why we're open sourcing the solution to everybody. So to speak to the first one, what is this inclusive design audit? So the purpose of the audit was to estimate the percentage of population who can and cannot do something. So for example, find and successfully add the following product to the basket on mobile. So we took one case study to show you guys that is actually highlighted in that video that I mentioned earlier. And we presented this to adults in the UK and asked them, can you recognize the brand, the format, the variant, and the pack size or pack count? And it's safe to say that more than 75% of the adults were able to complete all 4 tasks with our hero images. We did the same with pack shots, and not surprisingly, it struggled a little bit in being able to identify the 4 parts of our hero images. So can we say that they work? We wanted to bring it to the retailers themselves and really see some results in uplift. And here are some examples, some proofs behind our madness. So one, hero images delivered a significant sales lift across conventional pack shots on all screen sizes for hairspray at 4%, shampoo at 8%, and then shampoo again for both for PC desktop at 14%. So if anything, although they are designed with a mobile-first mentality, they actually perform even better on desktop. We also asked, the users, what are the benefits that you see in these hero images, and everything from clarity of brand, which is obvious, clarity of format, product size, all those were represented in their feedback, which is exactly what we were trying to get across. So to see that it was aligned from what we were trying to convey to what they actually received, it's great to see. Here are some live market results. So just by adding the number of washes on a call out with retailer in Europe, we delivered a 2.6% lift in an A/B split test. By just taking off our lids on Ben & Jerry's and showing that ice cream, that product inside, we saw a 3.6% lift in this retailer. For Simple, where a lot of our products look very similar in shape, but the size can vary from a 7 count to a 25 count, it's not surprising that we saw, a 19.6% lift in the test when they were able to identify the difference in size. And back to Magnum, this was a 24% lift in split test, which really, was really surprising to us. But just, the small things like identifying exactly what's inside a pack, inside this, 2 classic, 2 almond, 2 white, really made the difference in, providing consumers the information they need to make that purchase decision. So hopefully those few slides, gave you and convinced you that there is proof of conversion behind the idea of hero images. So leading to that last part of that pillar is the visual consistency. So we want to make sure these hero images are good for the shopper experience, for us ourselves as the brands, but then also our retail partners. When we first took on this, I would have to say that our designs weren't too pleasing. We actually used these yellow call-outs that didn't look so great. I would say they looked ugly, and it was a little too attention-grabbing. So we worked with retailers to kind of understand exactly how they see this portrayed online as well, and how we can collaborate to figure a solution that looks good on their site, on their own site. So just, by lifting the size off the image, putting it at the bottom right corner, and just providing that additional information that isn't too outlandish did it enough for our consumer experience. So I have to admit that at the very beginning, of course, we were creating solutions that were beneficial to our brands. But as we started, taking this idea out into the industry, out to the retailers, we realized that we need to deliver a category solution, something that would be available and beneficial to all. So the first is medium zoom. This is something that is pretty obvious. It's nothing hard to decode, but having that medium zoom and those standard stripes along the right-hand side is essentially our recipe to, our end result. It's difficult to see what the product is because it's not square, so that's when, this medium zoom and that consistent stripe with size and format comes into play. And zoom really does work. So I just brought this slide back here to show you that the medium zoom is quick and easy to look and to identify with those side stripes along the right-hand side. And as mentioned earlier, we want to bring the solution to everyone. So we've made it available to download the template, to download the font, to create that industry standard. GS1 actually hosted a meeting with 31 different suppliers to show the standards, and there were very few objections from everyone. So it is a new trend, a new standard that everyone is taking on. But the most important part is to follow this template because this is almost as what we've promised to retailers as we start introducing this across all manufacturers and suppliers, is that we have this consistency to avoid that visual Armageddon. So here are the exact guidelines from Cambridge University on how to create that mobile-ready hero image that meets GS1 standards. It has that product format stripe, as well as the color of that stripe matches the variant, so there's that connection in design. There's an open sans typeface, and it's sentence case versus, all caps, because that's actually, you're able to read that faster. And as well, it is read from the bottom up, because that's usually how graphs are portrayed. there's that medium zoom, so you can see that brand and you can see that that identifier that is the pump or whatever that is for that package design, and as well as that size call out that matches the brand. So there's consistency with the various parts and all ties together in the end to convey that end message that we want from consumers. And we took that and applied it to ourselves. So like I said, we started off with a brand solution, but now it's a category-wide solution. So we took, what was on the left initially, and we've backtracked and went back to our brands to redesign our own hero images to meet our GS1 standards. So again, it has that stripe along the side to meet the color of the variant, open stance typeface for consistency. It's no longer brand specific, with the type going from bottom up. And here's another example for visual consistency. Again, the wrong colors at first, but then we tied it to the variant as well as the brand color. So we've created a decision tree to help everyone essentially understand which path to take. So if your product is primarily a square-ish shape, we don't see you using those stripes because that size call out, that variant, that look can be done within that square format, because you can use the entire canvas that you're given on a retail site as that primary image. But if it's a little bit more vertical or a little bit more horizontal, we still want to take advantage of that full square space. So that's where we introduce that stripes, either along the right-hand side or at the bottom if they're horizontal. If the format is pretty obvious, a mayonnaise is a mayonnaise, that side stripe may not be necessary. But again, it's that consistency that you need that size call out at that bottom right corner. So again, we have these guidelines. We'll share that out with you, but it's important that, we keep to it so that more and more retailers can adopt and more manufacturers can join this trend. So I would say, where are Unilever's mobile-ready images? I would say more or less 40 retailers across 20 markets have now adopted our hero images. And it's a big push for us in 2017, a big objective for more and more to be accepting. What's great is that we actually use Clavis to help us understand and track our hero images across various retailer websites. We've created an elaborate scoring system, which Clavis has allowed us to do with their capabilities. It's a little complex, but it really lets us measure the granularity that's needed to understand where the gap is, whether it's at the retailer or it's on us in creating that trusted source. But we use Clavis to measure this. So we can make sure that the correct hero image is out on market, and if at all, it is there. And we're very pleased to see that it is no longer a Unilever thing. We see, various other manufacturers like Coca-Cola and Kleenex adopting this new trend as well. Some more examples, our competitors are following fast, and we just see it growing as the year continues because we see it now as an industry shift. There you go. So that essentially wraps up. Yep.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Jessica. A wonderful presentation. So very well timed as well. So I'll let you catch your breath for a bit before we get into question and answers. But we are in the question and answer portion of the program. As I mentioned, all attendees are on mute for this call, but you can enter your questions via the Q&A box located on the right-hand side of your screen, which looks like a few of you have. And while you're writing your questions, just wanted to give you a little bit more in-depth insight about Clavis Insight. We are the global hub of e-commerce intelligence and leading innovator at the forefront of the e-commerce analytics revolution. Based in Dublin, we have offices in local market expertise in Boston, London, Paris, and Shanghai. And Clavis is the indispensable strategic e-commerce partner to hundreds of the world's largest and most important brands and manufacturers, including, of course, Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Mondelez, and 3M. Our customers utilize our daily and real-time analytics to monitor, analyze, and optimize their products' 6P impact on sales, market share to protect their brand equity across leading online stores, mobile websites, and mobile shopping apps in over 30 countries. Great. Well, perfect. Now that we have that out of the way, we did want to get into our question and answer portion. First one here, the popular ones concerning the slides. So yes, everyone who has registered will receive a copy of the slide deck as well as a webinar program recording within about the next 2 days. So here's the first question here. Jessica, did you meet any or much resistance from retailers with respect to putting these images that are not the usual pack shots?
I would say definitely yes at the beginning. It's a change in process. It's something different. For the longest time, I think for as long as we can remember, the usual is that pack shot, that front of pack. So to change that process with manufacturers, there was some resistance as well as that argument of visual Armageddon on their digital shelf. But by working with them, by having them understand that this really does improve the customer experience, we have that insight to show you, and we'll work with you to develop a strategy so that, we aren't, destroying your pages, your digital pages. It will look consistent. It will still look great. They have now been opened and really adopted this new idea.
Great. And speaking of retailer relationships and openness, a couple of questions on Amazon. So people had noticed that Amazon wasn't listed in the current retailers. Are there movements with the retailer to move towards these standards?
Yes, so it varies from market to market. I know Amazon abroad has adopted hero images. In the U.S., this is an ongoing conversation. I won't give the specifics behind it, but really why we haven't seen hero images on there is actually more of just a technical issue that we're trying to work through. It isn't the acceptance of the idea itself. It's Amazon needs to just work through some technical issues, and then more or less we'll see that adopted on there as well.
Perfect. Yeah, there were literally about 7 questions on Amazon, so you had a key topic there, so that's perfect. Here's an interesting one, kind of going beyond.
To add to that,
oh, I'm sorry.
Sorry,
yeah.
And also just to add to that, and it's almost a force if all manufacturers can kind of hold hands and come at it together. That will only persuade other retailers to accept it even more. So if we believe, all of us believe that this is a solution and it is what's going to create the best customer experience, it's going to become the industry standard across all retailers. So we can all come together for that.
That's a great point. Very nice compliment here. Many thanks, Jessica, for the presentation. Very useful insights. You'd mentioned brand, format, variant, and size, but what are your thoughts on how to use these images to promote price and other kind of promotional advertising?
Well, we want hero images to become that primary front of pack, essentially that replacement. In a way, in regards to search results in that thumbnail. So if you think about how you would treat your front of pack image, you wouldn't put a promotion on there. So that is a separate idea. That isn't something that should be combined with your hero image. It really should be the product itself and what those key 4 points are. And then we can, take that next step in regards to whatever, promotion or sale that is and be able to convey that in another way. But treat it as if you would your usual front of pack image. You wouldn't necessarily put a stamp on there that, there's a promotion going on.
Great. Let's take a look. So, how applicable do you think these standards are to, categories outside the, the traditional FMCG?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, Unilever doesn't have every category in the book, so we definitely see this format and design updated a bit per the needs of other categories. I think if the basics are there, if, that brand variant format and size and that medium zoom is taken into consideration, we will for sure that, other categories that Unilever doesn't have will have to develop their own rules behind the hero image. So I'm sure we'll be seeing that as, more manufacturers and suppliers are taking this on, and we're interested to see, what comes about.
Sure. Here's kind of a longer question. Did you meet any resistance internally at first? That the questioner had actually stated that they tried to present this concept, and then they said their brand team thought it was a great idea, but didn't have budget for it. So how did you kind of get your internal audiences on board to move forward with this?
I think it's a little bit almost the same as we tackled the retailers. There's a selling point to this, but I think if you have the facts and the insight, you have that research on uplift, that A/B testing, it's something that they can't refuse, and especially if it's the way that all manufacturers and suppliers are going. You don't want to be that last one, that last brand that doesn't have these hero images online. So it's a new wave. It's going to be a new trend. It's something that needs to be taken on, and if anything, it needs to be mandated. It's the new way of shopping for consumers. So soon, now it's where are the hero images? So maybe at one point, theoretically, ideally, it could be, why don't you have a hero image? So it's something that needs to be adopted, and it is in the end simple. It's not something hard to decode and how to create them, but it's something that's definitely a must.
Sure. And obviously you have this rolled out across many of your markets, and this question is coming in. How well does this method work for non-English languages? And even the colors they're using. Are you noticing similar conversion uplifts in the non-English speaking markets?
Yeah, so India is actually one of our best markets, and actually they're all mobile. They're a completely mobile market, and we've seen a great uplift for them. When it comes to colors, everything is still tied to your brand and your variant. So colors aren't going to vary from market to market. If your brand is recognizable, it's that variant color. It's all inclusive of that design. What's going to change is obviously that technical call out on the right-hand side. It's going to be in that language. But a consumer more or less needs to know that whether it's English speaking or not. So this concept really does translate globally.
Great, a lot of good stuff. Coming in. So do you think there's any standard way that you could communicate, new or best sellers or recommended items in these hero images?
Similar to the promotions questions, we think it's best to keep it to what the product is. Treat it similar to your front of pack image that you would usually see on a retailer site within that thumbnail. If you're going to have that call out on your packaging, then I think that's fine to include it within the hero image, but keep it similar. Keep it so that it's not, so that when the consumer does receive that product, it isn't something completely different that they saw online and that they purchased. So keep the hero image as that product itself when it comes to promotions or any new claims or call outs. That's then needed to market it a separate way.
Sure. So I'm assuming you're probably still doing, continuously testing and iterating on this concept. I suppose, based on what you're seeing, what do you think might be next here?
I think what's next is, I think we'd have to kind of really see once we get it fully adopted across retailers. I think the first step is to just really see, a full adoption across retailers, and that uplift, across, consumer sales. From there, maybe we can find out that there's, besides that for the brand variant, format and size, maybe there's another tidbit of information that's really important. But we really don't want to see the design itself changing because we want to keep it as standard as possible. So really, we don't know. We don't know what will be the next step. I think that'll come with time. It's something new, and anything new is already hard to adopt. So let's take that first step first.
Great. And then I think we'll have the, let's see, one last question here. So concerning the lozenge example, so why was the choice made to have the text on the strip in the lozenge example going vertical versus horizontal?
Well, it meets the needs of the product shape itself. So on a retailer site, a thumbnail, the space you get on a retailer site is more or less a square. So how can we fill that square the most in its capacity? So if a product is already horizontal in shape, we have that side space to fill. So that's where that side stripe came in. If it's a product that's more or less vertical, sideways, then that's when we suggest to use the stripe along the bottom. So it was the capability to fill that entire canvas that we had available to us as the supplier. And then why the stripe reads bottom up is because that's really actually how graphs are written and visually seen. So we're just trying to make it consistent in across all of our experiences. So that's just how it's easily read from consumers.
Perfect. Well, great. Thank you. We've actually pretty much reached the end of our time this afternoon. So once again, thank you, Jessica, for a really wonderful presentation and rallying your colleagues here to the cause. I appreciate it, and it's really some exciting stuff to see and kind of be on the forefront of. So thank you. As I'd mentioned, a survey will appear as you exit today's webinar. Please let us know your thoughts on the webinar. And everyone who completes a survey will receive a copy of our newest white paper on our U.S. online grocery market analysis. So certainly some more timely information for you guys. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful afternoon. Goodbye.